Okay, welcome to Bloomfield in Focus. I'm Mike McCready, the Bloomfield Township Supervisor, and today we have an opportunity and special guest, Donni Steele. Welcome, Donni.
Hi, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, Donnie's our state representative. You're from Orion Township.
Orion Township, it's District 54.
Okay.
It includes all of Orion, a little bit of Oakland, half of Auburn Hills, and the city of Bloomfield Hills, and half of Bloomfield Township.
It's a large geographic area to cover.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're getting around obviously to all the communities.
Trying to.
Yep.
We're on summer break right now, and so yesterday I was able to go to an Oakland Township meeting, and then Monday I was able to go to an Orion Township meeting and just make sure that I hear what's going on with the boots on the ground.
That's wonderful. Good for you.
Thanks.
And currently you're in your second term, right?
Correct.
Second term?
Yes.
And we just started the term back in January.
Yes.
And so how does the second term compare to your first term?
Well, there's, as you know, because you were a state legislator at one time, there's 110 House of Representatives, and they each geographically, I just gave you the geographic, but it's about 90,000 residents in which we represent. And the Senate is 38 senators for the state, and it's a 2-year term for the House and a 4-year term for the Senate. And I'm just repeating that because a lot of people don't know. I don't even know if I knew all that when I started getting involved in the township. But the difference is, it's a 2-year term, is that we were in minority last term, and it was Democrat House majority, Democrat Senate, and then, of course, the governor is a Democrat. And so this term, as the House of Representatives, we are a Republican majority, and then the Senate is a Democrat, and of course the governor's a Democrat. And so what that has done is given a more balance of government, and there's more compromise and discussion, which I think is better for government because it moves slower, because you have to take everybody into consideration, and things aren't just jammed on through.
Right. I think the term we had when I was in Lansing is to get a bill passed, you needed 56. Was it 19 or 20 and 1? Was it,
yeah,
right?
56, 19 and 1. Yes.
19 and 1
yeah.
to get it through the House, the Senate, and then to the governor to sign.
Correct. Right.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work. All the
Yes.
negotiation that goes on.
Yes.
And then you hear and you see different people from different areas and their concerns, and boy, I never really thought about that, and I understand. It's really a learning experience.
You know, it's what's nice because I am in Orion Township. I live in Orion Township, but then Bloomfield, when I grew up, it was a semi-rural community, and now it has become a suburban, sprawl, Orion has. But I still have the perspective of a country, semi-rural person, and you look at things differently than how, like, the suburbs or the city does. And I'm able to take a balance and take a look at both, because you think about the state representative, Greg Markinen, that's up in Iron Mountain, and his thoughts in comparison to Monroe County or downriver. I mean, their landscaping is different, their size is different, their services are different, and to take that perspective into consideration as a legislator is really important, and sometimes I don't necessarily think that government takes other people's opinion into perspective.
Sure. And so now that you're in the appropriations,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so in appropriations, you are chairing the transportation.
Yes, it's the subcommittee. I think there's 18 subcommittees that come up with their subcommittee budget, and then, you pass them in committee, the budgets,
Yes.
and then they go into the appropriations to be passed. And then once they've passed an appropriations, then they go on the floor because it becomes a bill, a House bill, and then it has to pass in the House, and then the Senate has to agree, and then it has to go to the governor.
And that's all. And that's it, right? That's
Yeah,
so simple,
easy.
so simple, isn't it? So when you have your subcommittee, how many other representatives are on your subcommittee?
We have 7,
Okay.
and it's made up of 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And this was another thing I learned. When you're in the majority, you are the chair of all the different subcommittees in the House of Representatives.
Right, correct.
And then each committee is the majority of the House of Representatives is Republican. So,
Right.
so basically, what the Republicans want in the House most often is what is presented and what is passed out. So.
Right. I get that. And so how many representatives sit on appropriations?
I think it's 17.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
And then each one who sits on it usually chairs a committee.
Yes.
And so are you sitting on other committees as well as the transportation?
Yes, I'm on LARA and DIFs, which is licensing and regulation and insurance. And then the other one I'm on is public health, which is part of, they took the DHHS, which is the Department of Health and Human Services budget, which is $37 billion
Yeah, it's the big
budget.
one.
It's the biggest. And then, so the House took it and they split it in 3. So each of the subcommittees can wrap their head around that volume of workers and money and
Right.
what transpires in those
Right.
departments.
So now you're on appropriations, and then if you're not on appropriations, you can serve on a policy committee.
Correct,
Are
yes.
you on any policy
No,
committees?
I'm not on any
So you're just
policy.
on the 3,
And then one more, which is capital outlay.
which
So.
only meets very infrequently.
We haven't met this.
Oh, you haven't met
Not
yet.
this term. We met
Right.
last year, and it's really about the infrastructure for like Oakland University or OCC, and they want to build a new building, and they can't afford to build it themselves. They'll go to the capital outlay,
Right.
and the state of Michigan will borrow money on their behalf to be able to have them build a building. So
I
that's-
remember those days,
Yeah.
right? And then in your committee, you're a chair. You have 2 staffers in your office. You have a front desk and a back desk,
Correct.
right? And now you're a chair. You're keeping your staff
Yes.
busy, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So tell us about your staff.
Well, what's really interesting is the budget for the subcommittee for the transportation is a $6 billion budget.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is make it be the most effective that we can with the dollars in which the taxpayers are paying into it. So we're digging into the budget per se, and we're finding, I didn't realize that part of that budget is paying for like the maintenance of the Blue Water Bridge. MDOT takes care of the maintenance of the Blue Water Bridge, and we own 50% of the bridge, and Canada owns the other 50% of the bridge, and it's divided right through the middle of the river, and so we take care of the maintenance up to that point, and there is tolls, but MDOT has like 45 people that they take. So that's something that we look at that I didn't know. We have port authorities, Detroit Port Authority, which is, I have never been to the port down there, and I didn't even know it existed. It's down behind is where all the industrials, where Zug Island is.
Yes.
And we were able to do a tour of the Port Authority where Holcomb has a shipment. Holcomb had a shipment of dry cement that was coming in from Alpena through the waterways, and it was being delivered at the port, and then the trucks go in and they take the dry cement and then they ship it to the work projects that are across the state and this part of the country.
Yeah, it's interesting to learn that process, isn't it? And all the
Yes.
people and the companies that are involved with it.
Yes, it's very complicated, and it's
And those ports are deep water ports.
Yes.
That's what they need, because when those ships come in, those container ships, they're down low.
yes.
Yeah, and you just little things, but you learn, and it's very interesting, isn't it?
Well, and they took us on the boat too, and the
Oh, is
boat,
that right?
yeah, it's a 500-foot boat, and there's people down there. The guy he was cooking breakfast for his crew, and
Is that right?
oh yeah, you could smell the bacon frying. It's like, okay, it's like a houseboat.
How
but
big a
they're-
crew did they have down there? Do you recall?
It was probably 20, and
Okay.
and then the captain gave us a tour of the boat, and
How neat.
I just can't even imagine moving that boat down the river. And they stopped and they dropped off some of their shipment for Detroit. The trucks came and picked it up, and then they were on their way to
Toledo?
further
Right.
down. Yeah, they had more to drop
Yeah,
off.
and it started in Alpena.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that what I learned from that whole process is how underutilized our waterways are for shipping goods and materials across the world.
Yeah.
We should really capitalize on that
Yeah.
and enhance those ports. And so part of the budget process was to give more money to those ports for enhancing them so people can apply for grants, because there's, I think, 33 different ports in the state
Okay.
of Michigan,
Okay.
and they're run by different authorities, although the Detroit Port Authority is funded through MDOT, but the other ones are not. So if we wanted to allocate some more money to these ports so grants can make their ports more accessible for the deep water, for the ships, for different ships to be able to come in and stuff. So that's something that I found really...
Education.
Yes.
It is. And to get a tour of that ship.
Yes.
Boy, good for you.
Yeah,
because not many people get to do that.
No, and I just want to go one more thing. They put us on a boat, the Westcott, and they're all like they're right there, and they gave us a tour of not an outside tour of Zug Island, and we got to go underneath the Gordie Howe bridge, and we were supposed to walk the bridge before it opens, but we didn't. That tour didn't work out. But I mean, to look at the suspension and the massive ingenuity that bridge is in the state of Michigan it is so. I was like in awe being that close to it. And then I look at Zug Island, which is 395 acres on an island that was used for processing iron ore into steel, and right now there's only one plant out of, they had three that are coal, they're coal run, that the coke, and they heat up make the steel, and that island needs to be cleaned up. And I mean, like, what a great economic development is to get rid of all of that, and let's put a data center there, let's put a battery plant there, let's put, there's something that we could use. I mean, the railroad's already there, the people are already there, the water's already there, the ships are already there. Let's use it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's go back. So you have two staffers that work with you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that was the question.
And a back desk, right? So tell us about your staff.
So
because when we call your office, this is who you're first going to talk to.
Yes. Well, thanks for asking. So Lindsay is my front desk, and she is a Michigan State recent graduate, and she did an intern because she was looking for something different than what she was doing. She's in accounting, and she was in a sorority, and she thought this would be a fun internship. So when you're the intern, you get all the stuff, all the thank you notes, all the phone calls, all the spreadsheets, and then you learn how that front desk works. And then so my front desk went to she went to communications, in the House of Representatives, and her name was Rachel, and then Lindsay took over to the front desk. And she won't be there with us forever because she did graduate. She has an
accounting degree.
She has an accounting degree.
So she probably wants to go into finance or accounting of some sort.
Yeah.
And then who's your back desk?
And my back desk is Denise Pellerito, and she's been at the state for 20 years. And she was working at the front desk in somebody else's office, but she has the ability to be able to help me with legislation. And so she now has become, and she was on the transportation with one of her previous representatives was on the transportation policy. So she has seen the transportation on the other side of it. Very much so.
Right.
Same people.
Yeah. And people say, well, how do I get a hold of my state representative? Well, it's kind of simple. You can call your office, and your number, I think, is what? Let me think here. 517-373. I think it's 1771.
Oh, my gosh. I don't think I ever called it. Isn't that terrible?
No, it's okay. You don't have to look it up. But that's how, if you want to reach out to Donni Steele and ask questions about transportation funding, call your office, or you can email it, right? Let's see. Was I close? Let me see. I was right. 517-373-1771.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. Well, because your front desk, her name again was?
Lindsay.
Lindsay called this morning.
Okay.
And all the numbers in Lansing in the house are 517-373 numbers. So that's easy to remember. It's the last four digits, depending on what floor are you in?
9.
On 9? Okay. I think I was on 6 before. I think 8 or 6, I forget now, but in the Capitol building. Yeah,
and they call it 3 things: the Anderson building, Howe, and then
the
House of Representatives. I think that's why it's the House.
Right.
The Howe.
Yeah, the Howe.
Yeah.
And so anyway, people always go, how do I get a hold of my state representative? Well, just call the office, talk to the staff, because the staff always knows what's going on. They know your schedule. So if they want to have you come to a meeting, that's the best way to reach you. Pick up the phone and call.
Yes.
Or if it's an email, they can email you as well. And your staff, they read your emails, right?
Yes.
And they take your schedule and make your schedule for you,
yes.
right?
They do better than I would do, so I really appreciate them because they keep me in order. But
I'm still in touch with my staff.
Are you? That's nice.
We talk and we talk and we talk about legislation and what's going on, and they remind me of how I voted. I don't even remember how I voted on some things, but they do. They're a great resource.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And so, and it's a team effort, and our whole goal is to make sure that we service the people and who we represent. So they want to give good service, and I want them to give good service, and the service is servicing the people that live in this community. But the other thing is too, we have, if you want to sign up for our email, and then we can just give you regular updates, not bombard you, but
they can email your office.
Yes,
right.
for that.
And you want to tell them your email?
See, I have to look it up. So it's Donni Steele at house.mi.gov. So DONNISTEELE at House. But if you just look up Donni Steele on Google,
it comes up.
Yeah,
it'll come up. Yeah, very easy. So let's talk about the transportation budget and how it works, because a lot of people want to understand, where do all their tax dollars go? Where does it derive from? Mostly for transportation fund, it comes from gas tax, diesel tax. Do we tax electric cars? How do we do that? And where does it go? And then how is it distributed?
Well, thank you for asking. So I don't think people realize that why does gas cost me different in different states? It has to do with the state tax and what they charge. All of it has a federal tax on it. And in the state of Michigan, I think we're about 61 cents per gallon between the federal and the state government of taxes, and then the rest is the cost of the actual gas. Okay. That's a portion of it, and the other portion of it is your driver's registration.
Right.
So when you go get your new registration every year, that money goes into the roads, and the way that they base the cost of the registration has to do with the value of your car. It used to be by weight, but now it's what they call like assessed value. So the more expensive your car, your registration is going to be more expensive. And if you drive an electric car or if you drive a hybrid, you're going to pay more because you're not paying the gas tax.
You're paying more on your registration.
Correct.
And I'm trying to remember, we did a calculation on that when I was in the House about how many miles a electric car would go. I forget what it is, but are you going back and revisiting those areas now?
You know what? That's a really good question, because I think that we need to, because I don't think that what they pay offsets what it costs, like a comparison.
Because that's what I keep hearing about. Are we charging enough for these electric vehicles because they're not buying gas? And even though we're getting extra money out of the registration fees, is it a fair distribution or collection?
Yes. And so what I have been hearing is that in the Senate bill, because they passed their budget for their roads commission, their road budget, and what they had in their budget was a pilot program for an allocation of $5 million to do a pilot program for a user tax. So for EV or a hybrid, that basically a chip goes in your car, see how many miles you drive, you pay accordingly. And
interesting.
And
so the Senate passed that out of their transportation.
Yes, as a pilot program to spend $5 million. So they keep on asking, should I agree with this?
Right.
And so far, I have not been convinced that we need to spend the money for a pilot program for this at this time.
Who chairs the Senate side?
Her name is Veronica Kleinfeld.
Oh, right. Veronica's from Macomb County.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
So when you collect the money now, it goes into the fund, the Act 51, the Michigan Transportation Fund, right?
Correct. So and usually I have a visual, because it's a chart that they put on a 5x11, and it goes in like, that game where you put all the marbles in the top, and then it trickles down, and then who gets what at the very bottom.
Right.
And
Same idea.
And just so everybody can hear, the bucket at the bottom is basically your county road commission. So by the time that it gets there, you get the fewest marbles. So it goes to, I talked about ports, it goes to rails, it goes to Amtrak, it goes to buses, it goes to operating of buses. We've got SMART, it's funded, they fund SMART through our transportation budget. And then it goes to airports. I didn't know that it was airports, operation of airports. I don't think I'm missing anything. Ferry boats. The Blue Water Bridge that I mentioned, the port, it goes to all these funds, plus it goes to debt. We have like $300 million that we're paying back in back debt for money bonds. For bonds that we borrowed for the roads. Right. That was the big road plan to be able to, I'm going to fix the darn roads. Right. Well, we borrowed $3 billion to fix what we fixed, so now we have to pay that back. Right. So that comes off the top. Right. And then at the very bottom, there's 3 buckets. You have the city, villages, and cities and villages get a portion. And then MDOT gets a portion, and the county roads get a portion. But the part is there's one MDOT, there's 531 cities and villages, and there's 82 county road commissions.
Is that right?
So all that money it's an automatic, and it goes to and it's distributed based on how many users that you have, and it's based on what is your road system. So you're not going to get
miles of roads.
You're not going to get the same amount of dollars in Ishkameen as you are in Oakland County, because that would be silly. So Oakland County actually gets the most money out of any other counties in the state of Michigan. We get close to $117 million. So, which we're thankful for, but we got to remember we have I-94, I-96, Telegraph, Woodward. I mean, we have,
and that's just the tip of the iceberg
yes,
right there.
Yeah, not in counting all the mile roads.
Right. Isn't it quite the education that you're getting right now?
Yeah, I bore people after a while, because once you get me, it's like a wind up doll. It's like
yeah. Well, it's so important, because that's what we hear a lot about of our roads, especially coming through spring and the potholes. So I'm so glad that you're working on this and are going to add to the budget, because we need more money invested into our roads, and hopefully that you'll be successful. And I understand one of the arguments has been when we pay at the pump, we collect gas tax, 6% sales tax, but that is split up, where most of it goes to the schools, and then there's the other smaller portion goes to the local units of government, and I think there's something else in there, maybe the courts or something. But that's where you're talking about not taking all that money and putting it towards roads, and then backfilling schools in another manner, correct?
Yes.
Isn't that some of the arguments or the conversations going back and forth in Lansing right now?
Yes, thanks for asking. So we believe, and everybody believes, the governors, the Senate, and the House, that we're $3 billion underfunded on an annual basis for our roads. Right now we're spending $6 billion. We need to be spending $9 billion. Where that money comes from is up for negotiation, but the House passed 8 bills, and one of the bills is reallocating that gas tax that you're referring to. So the way that the state of Michigan works is, you got the big tankers, and they go down to downriver, and they fill up the tank of gas, and they drop it off at all the gas stations. That tanker pays the sales tax at the main pump, and then they in turn charge it to all the gas stations. Okay. But that sales tax at the big tanker doesn't go to the roads. It goes to sales tax, general fund, and it goes to everything. It goes to schools, it goes to revenue sharing, it goes to what one of the bills, actually it's like 4 bills just to change that one thing, is to make sure that sales tax is reallocated and only goes to the roads, and that in itself is $1 billion. Okay. So, and if we get the Senate and the governor to agree with that, at least we can at least come up with, instead of $6 billion, we can come up with $7 billion, and that is one thing that universally has been discussed, that is something that they agree on. Although they have not, we passed them through the House as bipartisan. The Senate has sent them to committee, but they have not passed them out of committee or voted yes or no on them. Okay. And so it's sitting there right now.
Progress.
Yeah, so call your senators.
Right, right. And then where do you think they're going to find the other $1 billion?
Well, we thought that it's the other $2 billion that we could there was some more fund in the general fund dollars that can be allocated to the roads, corporate income tax allocated directly to the roads, and MEDC money that is due to expire. There was a bill that was passed that the governor was able to spend $500 million of MEDC money based on how she deemed necessary, and that was only a 1 year. So we wanted to take that $500 million and put that only into the roads instead of MEDC. So I think that everybody would agree, instead of just going to a couple corporations, everybody should benefit from that if you put it into the roads.
Well, we'll be watching and wish you luck on getting it done, and we're all cheering the whole legislative process on to see this happen, because it's our roads need some better investment. And we're real hopeful you'll come back with something.
Yeah, and I just one other point on that. The other portion of that other funding is it wouldn't go through that whole marbly formula.
Okay.
It would go right to the bottom buckets, which is our road commissions and our cities and villages. The
Wonderful.
bulk, $2 billion would go right to the
So right
neighborhood
where it's
roads.
needed, and
Yes.
that's where it's needed, is right.
Right.
So we were talking about a little earlier, too, about some of the bills that you've created and that you're working on. And tell us about the one we talked about, the water safety bill that you have introduced.
So Senator Victory is on the west side of the state, and we came up with a bill concurrent with each other right off the bat, is that they teach water safety in schools. So everybody has physical education, and they have in every school,
Right, certain basic requirements.
Yes, and that would just go into that learning. You don't have to. It's not you don't have to have a pool. You don't have to. It's not swimming, actual swimming, but it's acknowledging the safety around waterways, safety of life vests, how important it is to do resuscitation and to know the basics about it, alcohol around waterways and how the two don't mix, and just to have our schools teach that in basically health class, physical education. So
well, that's good, because this is the time of year we hear about tragedies on the water, unfortunately. And I was a lifeguard and went through those courses. And you're right, it's very beneficial, because I think one thing it does really teaches you to respect the water and understand it, and be aware of your surroundings. I think that's the biggest thing you could say.
Yeah, and especially, you think about it, we have 11,000 lakes?
Yeah.
And plus the big lakes, and then doesn't count the pools and the rivers and all the stuff that we have.
Yeah, it's such a big part of our community.
Absolutely.
And so tell us, what are some of the other bills that you're working on?
Okay to Say, which is another one, and I believe it passed the House, but right now I think we had over 100 bills pass the House, and I think only 3 to 5 have actually gotten to the finish line. And good and bad,
Right.
Yeah, good and bad.
Oh, sure.
Okay to Say is on the IDs for kids in school, that they have basically a 1-800 number that they can call for to talk about suicidal, like a suicide hotline, if they believe somebody's acting erratically, and they want to be able to tell somebody without necessarily and not secret's not the word, but
right. In confidence.
In confidence, and that the bill just puts that phone number on the identification cards of the kids that have identification cards.
So I remember in school you get an ID card, and when you get that ID card, you're oh, I'm somebody now. Look at that. I got my picture.
We haven't changed.
Yeah, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. So you want to put that 800 number on.
That's right.
So they have it right in front of them to call if they need to talk to somebody.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Just that's all the bill is. Just easy, and some schools are already doing that.
Okay.
But it would just make it required
statewide.
Statewide, right?
Great.
And I didn't even realize another thing is we have 800 different school districts. So it does have to be an act of Congress to get everybody to put it on
to
there.
buy in.
Yeah.
So
right.
how's it going?
It passed, and it passed bipartisan, and I think it's what somebody said, that the death of committees in the Senate. So most everything is going, they just land there, and
And
That's
waiting
where
for their turn.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the bipartisanship. It's like, okay, well, you didn't look at my bills, so I'm not going to look at your bills. I mean, we don't ever get out of that high school mentality.
Yeah,
even
is that right?
It's unfortunate, but it's true.
No, okay. Well, it's part of Lansing.
Part of Lansing.
Yeah, it's always been there, right? That's the key, especially in leadership. They're the ones that really have to start pressing to get these things done, which takes us now. Normally in the budget cycle, the budget has been approved and signed into law by now, but it hasn't so far because there's a disagreement between the House, the Senate, and the governor's office, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So you're normally on what we call our in-session work time.
Right.
You know, this is the summertime when you go visit the different communities you represent. You go to people meetings for whatever, go visit not schools because they're out, but usually you're going to meet with the superintendents, et cetera, right?
Yes.
But you're now going to be in session throughout the summer working on this budget.
Yeah. Yes. Usually the July is like they don't have. So there's.
Right.
We'll be in session next week and like the last week of July and looks like all of August as well too.
Right.
And so this gives me the opportunity to talk to Mike McCready on the middle of the day, and I'm not in Lansing. Is being on these breaks, which is really important because I think the public wants to hear what's going on.
I think we always refer to them as in district time.
In district time.
Right.
Yes.
And it's very important.
Yes.
Because you need to go talk to your constituents.
Right.
But now because the budget isn't signed, you need to spend more time in Lansing.
Yes.
So normally we would see you at our trustee meetings, or if you're in a city, a council meeting, or other areas you go to. But because the budget isn't settled, and by law it's normally I think July 1st it's usually signed in, because I know at the chamber event that we always would go to on Mackinac Island end of May, usually it was a big ceremony of the budget signing. Did you go to the chamber event this year?
I did not go this year, and there was nothing to sign.
Right.
No. And so like that's usually in May, and then the deadline for July is what you're trying to do is get the school budget done so the schools know where they are, because their fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th.
Sure.
And so July 1st is another deadline, so everybody knows where their funding is for school, and we didn't meet that as well.
Right. So is there a new deadline then that's been created?
By law, we have to have our budget done by October 1st because that's the state's fiscal year. Okay. So that looks like we'll probably
That's the very absolute end deadline, October 1st.
Yeah,
right.
I can see us pushing that because what we were trying to do in June was at least get the school portion of the budget across the finish line. Not the whole budget, but at least the school, because of course the schools wanted to know where they landed. And we were there a couple days really late, and we passed a version in the House, and which was $12,000 per student for our foundation allowance, which is the highest it's ever been. And so we felt that was because the superintendents say, we want to be able to direct the funding. And so, but the Senate wanted the different separations of, different fundings for different programs.
Gotcha. And
we couldn't come to agreement. But we also wanted to tie ours to the road funding, and they didn't want to do that.
Well, I want to wish you the best in working through this. I'm sure you'll all get it done in time. And I want to thank you for taking time with us, and because I know how busy you can be. But I'll have to tell you, just to leave it, because I know we're running out of time here, but one thing I really enjoyed in Lansing was the day they would come and start planting flowers along the pathways in Lansing, leading up to the Capitol. And this time of year, how pretty it is at the Capitol. And I would encourage our residents, if you ever want to take a nice day trip, come up and visit Lansing. And now that you're in session, they can come and watch you in session, right? Come in and watch.
And come visit me in my office. I'm happy to take you around.
Yeah, and they can stop in.
Yes.
Yeah, please do. And it's so pretty there, isn't it, right now?
Beautiful. I agree.
That's good. So thank you again.
Thanks, Mike.
I appreciate
you having me.
Donni Steele, our state representative from the 54th district.
Hopefully it's like my age.
Okay. Oh, no, you're not there yet, are you? Okay. Thank you. And again, Mike McCready, Bloomfield in Focus. And thank you, Donni. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Yep.